what I would like to do, just to be sure that everybody knows who everybody is, let's just start over there. Clarence, tell everybody who you are. We'll work around this table and across the back and just say your name and who you with.
I'm Clarence Moore, and I'm the director of recreation.
Greg Johnson, Recreation Commission.
Charlie Mixon, Recreation Board.
Roy Branson, Recreation Board.
Robert Hunter, Recreation Board.
Douglas Kirkland, Recreation Board. Bill Kiefer, County Commission.
Wendell Kessler, County Commission.
Mayor Johnson, County Commission.
Morris Fuller, County Commission.
Region Local County Commission.
County Manager, Advocate, and Citizen.
We'll introduce ourselves at the beginning, if that's okay
Good
with
enough.
you guys. We'll go back here.
I'm Mike Olson, I'm on the record.
Franklin Goldwire, City of Guidance Council and Springfield Central High School Association.
Gigi Rixby, Effingham now.
Rachel Lloyd.
I'm Bill Lloyd, the president of the Effingham County NAACP, and Greg is with me, so that's what you want.
Good deal.
Roy Griffin, Springfield Central Association.
Pat Donahue, Effingham Herald.
Jamie Deloach, Commissioners Board.
Alan Kobeck, Board of Commissioners, Director of Community Relations. Paul Allen, Effingham County.
All right. If y'all would, introduce yourself and make your presentation.
All right. Well, good evening. My name is Patrick Graham. I'm Project Development Manager with CHA Sports, and I also am the office leader for our office in Savannah. So pleased to be here tonight, and I'm really pleased to have such a good crowd out here tonight as well. I'd like to just start off very briefly. We've already had the opening remarks and introduction, so zooming right into it, but I'd like to give a chance for the rest of the CHA sports team to introduce themselves as well.
I'm Arwen Otwell. I'm out of our Richmond, Virginia office. I've been with CHA for about 7 years in the sports group, and this is, I think, my 6th or 7th master plan that I've worked on.
My name's King Evans, and I'm what we call in our industry the gray hair of the bunch. I've been with CHA about 15 years. I am a partner in the firm, and my expertise is sports, park and rec and sports, and interestingly enough, all of my projects are county projects, park and rec county projects, as opposed to municipalities or private functions. I do all county work. I think this is our 9th active county project going right now.
So what we want to do tonight is just have a brief presentation here in the beginning to tell you a little bit about the master plan process. So the process that we're going through to develop the master plan. Talk a little bit about some of the preliminary findings that we have so far, and then the bulk of our time is really going to be in discussion. And that's when the real point of this public workshop for us is to get a lot of comments. We've gotten some from the staff level, some from the recreation board level, but we want to get plenty of comments, obviously, from the public, from the commissioners, from county staff, everybody. We want as much comment as we can on the existing recreation facilities in the county so that we can do the best job we can possibly do, put together the master plan. So the process that we're following is laid out here. So it starts out with doing an inventory of the existing facilities and some analysis of that. And then we've already completed that part of it and actually got a lot of really good help from Clarence and his staff in terms of getting an inventory of all the existing facilities. We then proceeded into step 2, which is the program and needs analysis. So that's where we've started a process that Arwen has been leading of looking at the existing facilities that you have now and comparing them to some national and state level standards for recreation facilities. And we'll talk a little bit more about what those are as we get into the presentation. And then this is where we are right now, public involvement. And so that's getting input, obviously, from the public and from the members of the rec board and the commission. Part of that involved a stakeholder questionnaire, which was sent out, and we've gotten some of those responses back. What will happen after this meeting is once we gather all the comments from this particular public workshop, we will then go into a process of sorting through all that data and then putting together a preliminary plan or a preliminary set of recommendations. That'll be shared with staff and rec board and commissioners, of course. Final comments on that, and then we'll put together a final master plan document. So that's kind of where we are.
May I ask one question, and I don't mean to be rude or anything, but I was led to believe that this was going to be a commissioner rec board workshop. That's what I was told this was going to be.
And that's what this is.
It is. It is a workshop. But whenever you get all the commissioners together, it has to become a public workshop.
I
So that's
understand that. I thought that we were going to sit down with the commissioners and discuss what we thought and what they thought we needed to do, more so than what you guys are saying. You see what I'm saying?
And we're going to do that.
Well, and that's
exactly
where we are here is we're telling you the data we're gonna collect that's gonna come from what you just said y'all are gonna do in about 15 minutes.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm just trying to lay a little groundwork for the process.
Just want y'all to know why we're here.
Okay.
Okay, so we started out with the inventory and needs assessment, and that involved a physical inventory, so getting information on all the facilities, going out and doing photo documentation of all the facilities, and then developing a set of needs based on national standards for recreation facilities. We'll then also develop a set of needs based on the input that we get here at the public workshop, and then go into a process of prioritizing the findings. So one of the things that we do as we look at the facilities is to classify them into different sizes or different types of facilities. So, and these include neighborhood parks, which are usually up to about 5 acres, community parks, which go up to 20 acres, and then district level, district sized parks that range up to 50 acres. And I'll show you how that comes about. If you look at your existing facilities right now, and what we are including here is we're actually including the gyms that are used for practices at the elementary school. So you see Marlowe Elementary down here, we've got Guyton Elementary, and so on and so forth. So these are the facilities that you have that fall into that sort of neighborhood size, if you will. And then we've got 2 community parks in that size range, Pinor and then the RV Baker Lake and Walking Trail, and then 2 district parks. Obviously, you know which those are. Sand Hill Complex and the Springfield Recreation Complex. So those are your 2 largest facilities, and this roughly gives an idea of the drawing area for each of those facilities. These are just based on typical standards. Well, you put all that together, and this is what you get. You can see that based on where you have the existing facilities right now, of course, you've got a large area up here in the northern part of the county that you do have minimal population up here, but it's really only served by the large district parks, particularly the Springfield Park. And then we also have a district here on the eastern edge of the county, eastern side of the county, where we could see some improvements there in terms of having some more regional service and because you don't have a lot that's in that area, but you have a lot of population in that area. So that's just one way to sort of look at the data. Now this is going to be tough to see, so we actually have, let's start passing these around. We've got a printout of this particular table. But what we did was to look at all the different facilities that you've got in the county, and then we gave them a rough condition assessment based on some of the input that we had gotten from the data inventory that Clarence and his staff did, as well as our own inventory from looking at the facilities. But what we've done is look at the different types of facilities that you have. So we've got recreation community center gyms, for example. We've got 3, but they're more on what we would assess in sort of the poor quality right now. Playgrounds, tennis courts, basketball courts, senior centers, and then so on and so forth. You get down to rectangular fields for football and soccer, and then your diamond fields, and then subdivided those into baseball with 90-foot paths, or baseball for more of the Pee-wee and the Little Leagues, 50 and 65-foot paths, and then softball fields. Anyway, so this just lists all the total facilities that we've got in the county. And then we also show the number of facilities. We call it other county parks. This would include any parks that are within, like City of Springfield, within City of Lincoln in particular. And then total those up at the end. But that would definitely be a lot easier to see when you take a look at the print. But all we want to show here is just sort of roughly looking at the existing conditions of the facilities that you have right now. We've got a lot that are in the fair category, definitely some in the good category, and then some in the poor category. That's just a way for us to kind of look at the existing facilities. It helps us as data points as we start to make recommendations down the road on the master plan itself.
Can you tell me who received the surveys?
So the surveys were just to the rec board members and the commissioners so far. Okay.
So far.
Yeah. Now, the reason those type of numbers and that sort of matrix of coming up with the number of facilities that you have is important is when we start looking at some of these national development standards. And there are a few that we looked at. So one is called ProRageous, that comes out of the National Recreation and Parks Association. And so that's based on national figures and input that comes back from surveys of local recreation managers in terms of what is an adequate number of facilities. And so what it does is it allows us to go back in and look at data that says, okay, for a certain size of population, you should have X many facilities. And I'll show you some of that data. Some of the others that we looked at, there's a Georgia Statewide Comprehensive Outdoor Recreation Plan, or SCORE. Unfortunately, the data in that particular one is not very good yet, but it's improving. And then there's the Virginia Outdoors Plan, which actually has some really good data in it, and there are a lot of comparisons between Virginia and Georgia in terms of size. And so it actually becomes a pretty good marker to look at. And I already talked a little bit about some of this, but anyway. So ProRageous is based on actual surveys of county park systems. One thing of note is in that ProRageous database, Georgia has more completed surveys than any other state. So that's helpful. Unfortunately, Georgia SCORE, there's no real usable data in there, but it is improving. And the Virginia Outdoors Plan is a really good data set and was completed more recently in 2007. Now, here's another table, which again is kind of small. I'm going to pass this out. I don't want to focus too much on this right now, but basically what we did was that previous table that we showed where we showed the number of different types of fields and gyms and community centers and all that you have in Effingham County. We then compare that against some of the national standards. And what we've done is we've looked at, these first two columns look at these types of amenities or these types of facilities based on the ProRageous standards. And so what it says is, okay, there's a playground in ProRageous. It says you should have so many per one amenity per 15,000 people. That's what these numbers in the first column are, and they keep going down. So, for instance, how many diamond baseball fields with 90-foot paths? You should have one per 52,000 people. That's the ProRageous data set. We then compare that against the current current and projected population numbers for Effingham County. So we looked at 2013, 2014 data, and then also 2025 population projections for Effingham County to come up with the recommended number of facilities. We then did the same thing with the Virginia Outdoors Plan data. So it has different standards in terms of how many amenities per population. That translates into different numbers. One thing that you will notice is that the Virginia Outdoors Plan shows a lot more facilities than the pro-rageous data does. And that's just based on differences in the data sets, and whereas one is national and one is specifically to the state of Virginia. When you then compare that against the current number of Effingham County facilities, what you see is that, okay, so if we look at the pro-rageous data, actually, looking at that data, you're in pretty good shape. You got more facilities than pro-rageous says that you should have. If you look at the Virginia Outdoors Plan data, it's a little bit mixed. In some cases, like community centers, you got more than enough, but then in some other cases, like playgrounds and some of the diamond fields and football fields, you won't have enough when you get to 2025. This is just one way to look at the data, and I don't want to focus too much on those particular numbers, because we also have numbers that come from your particular program, and Clarence was very good about giving us some information for the last 3 years on the number of teams that you have playing in each of your recreation programs. We then use that to look at, using the typical number of players per team, we come up with numbers to look at how many teams and how many players you have. For instance, just looking at fall 2013 and winter and spring of this year, y'all have 125 baseball, softball teams, 1,500 players. In football, soccer, 64 teams, 600 players. Basketball and volleyball, 88 teams or 700 players. So you've got a lot of use. You've got a lot of kids and teenagers and even adults, because some of them are adult leagues, using your facility. So this data is probably more important to consider than necessarily national standards are. National standard could say, well, you got more than enough fields. Well, if you're totally booked out on your fields, it doesn't matter what the national standards say. If you've got a lot of use, that's a good thing. And so that gives us some really good data. Another data point that's important to know is that, you know, the fields that you have and the gym facilities that you have are being used year-round, particularly the outdoor ball fields. I mean, they're being used a lot, not getting a lot of rest, which is tough on the field. So that's important for us to consider going forward. So those were some of the things that we noticed in the data. And again, and to your question, ma'am, in terms of where we've gotten input so far, we've gotten input from the Parks and Recreation staff, also from the county commissioners, and then now we're to the public workshop, and this is where we want to get input from all the parties that are attending here tonight to get some good input to make this the best plan possible. So just to give a quick summary of some of the questionnaire responses we've gotten so far. Well, we've got a lot of comments about the existing facilities being outdated or worn out. There are not enough fields for current or projected use. Parking is inadequate, and there were a lot of comments about a large centralized park being preferable over multiple small community parks. So based on that, we came up with just some very preliminary recommendations. These are some things that we've noticed, but these are mainly more to get to the discussion started tonight. Okay, these are not set in stone. But from what we've seen so far, definitely the existing fields need some TLC. They need They need some love, not just regular maintenance and irrigation. I mean, there are a number of fields that need new sod and, I mean, some real love. There's definitely a centralized recreation facility would make a lot of sense for Effingham County based on what we have seen so far. Planning down the road, we would suggest considering at least one lighted synthetic turf field. Synthetic turf is expensive, but you don't have near the type of maintenance that you do on natural grass, and you can just play and play and play on it, and you're not having to worry about wearing the field out. A lot of our clients that we work with in other counties, both in Georgia and other states, are moving to synthetic fields because of that, because they can use them all the time. We also noticed a lack of signage at your existing facilities. A lot of the facilities don't have a sign to say this is Pinora Park or this is Sand Hill Complex. And I think everybody in the county knows where they are, but if you're not from the county or you're coming from away, it may be hard to find some of these. It'd be nice to have a nice entrance sign to those. There's also, we would recommend a parking analysis at a number of the facilities to have more defined parking. And then, of course, developing a robust recreation facility program for your next BOC. I know that's going to come in 3 years. You'll be voting on it in at least 2 years, maybe a year and a half potentially. And so doing this now and coming up with a plan for that next BOC program in the next 5 to 6 years obviously would make a lot of sense. So, and we leave the last question as a big question mark, hopefully spur some discussion. So what we'd like to do now is open up the floor. We're going to be here to sort of help facilitate conversation, take a whole lot of notes, and hopefully have a good discussion with you. Certainly, if there are any questions, I'm happy to take them. Question statements, any of those? If not, we'll just open it up.
To recap what's gotten us to this point, I think Commissioner Kiefer expressed some concerns over, I'm not trying to put words in his mouth, he can speak for himself, but basically whether our areas were adequate, and I spoke out again. Yeah, we were fixing to spend money on 119 project. I have concerns whether or not that project, that facility is large enough, whether or not we need to look at other avenues before going and spending money on a facility that would still be too small and still have inadequate parking and still maybe not do what we need it to do. So whether or not we can acquire more property there and that facility would be fine, whether or not we need to do something else. So that's the reason we contracted with these folks to try and help us move that down the road. And it's my understanding or belief, and if I'm wrong in this, correct me, but I think the recreation board's has gotten a little bit frustrated, and because we do have some money sitting there and we're not spending it, we're not moving forward with some things. There's the gym project that's still sitting out there that's, this. I just want to be sure that the money that we spend is spent wisely and it gets us to where we need to be today and fills our needs for the years to come, rather than doing what I believe so many times this county has done, and that's to take a little bit of facility over here, and we acquire this through this method, and we acquire this, and we spend money, and it might not have been the wise money to spend. So that's, I think, unless somebody wants to correct me, I think that's what's gotten us here today. I appreciate these folks taking the time to kind of put some ideas or basically you have taken that information and putting it together and now putting it out here before us as to how do we think we need to move forward. Now you folks on the board, y'all deal with this every day, or that's what you're on that board for. So I do not pretend to know what's best for recreation. All I know is that I have people come up to me from time to time and say, we would love to have really nice fields and facilities so that we could hold all these tournaments and this, that, and the other. Well, then that gets to another thing. Do you have hotels and places for them to stay? Do you have restaurants for them to eat at? But you know what? We go to these seminars and you listen to things. They talk about how history can be a facilitator for growth. Recreation can be a facilitator for tourism, for growth. And if we can spend our money wisely and create a nice facility that does create these tournaments, that does create that need, then I believe that we will be going down the right road rather than spend money on a field that maybe will still be inadequate and still have inadequate parking. Now, where does the money come from? I want to know what the ideas are and what the wishes of the rec board and the public is to know where we all think we need to go. And then we figure out how much is it going to cost us to get there. And then we figure out if it's a doable project. I make no secret about I want that parkway built. And I know it's probably going to take splash dollars to do it. But I believe that this commission has made some wise moves in that direction to get that road built. I firmly believe that Pooler is going to outgrow Pooler, and we're going to be the recipients of it coming up into Effingham. I want to be ready for it. I don't want to be having to. I don't want to have to be playing catch up. So, it all costs money, and I understand that. And I'm certainly not want to raise taxes, but I don't want to spend a dollar unwisely either. So, that's my stand. I mean,
As a rec board, and I think that most of us over here, or all of us over here, will agree with what I'm saying. We work as supposed to be more of an advisory function. We don't control the dollars.
correct.
We don't know what you guys are thinking when we're sitting out there in our office. We never have a meeting with you guys. We never have a commissioner at a rec board meeting to say, you know, hey, when this thing came up about meeting with these guys over here and doing this plan, I'm gonna tell you what, it hit every one of us by surprise. Where is this coming from?
Well, Clarence was sitting right there when we did it, so.
I agree with that, but we didn't know that in advance. See what I'm saying? We didn't know that maybe that some of you guys on the rec board or on the commissioners were thinking about, maybe we need to expand our recreation facilities. We've always worked under the assumption that the dollars were tight for recreation because, you know, we look and we feel like that, and we talk about it with Clarence at our rec board meetings all the time. We're limited as even to how many people we can put on a field to keep the rec fields that we have maintained. Okay? I mean, we've got 1 or 2 people that ride to every field every day just to cut grass. They don't have time to do repairs. If you'll go to Sand Hill, you've got an open septic system that sits out there when you have a big tournament and people come from out of town, but you have to put a rope around because you've got a big hole in the ground. That's dangerous. So, you know, if we were to work with you guys, if we know what you're thinking, we can more or less have our meetings and talk about, yeah, we'd love to have a big facility that looks like Mill Creek sitting out there somewhere that's centralized. Me too. You see what I'm saying? But we realize that we don't have the dollar to put one of those up right now. But we can start somewhere. We can start somewhere.
But if that's the plan, then are we wise to spend, what are we fixing to spend at 119, $1 million?
Oh, we never said that we.
I know, but that's where I'm at.
I know.
Is it wise to spend this money, or is it better to have this as a target and let's patch up what we got and get by going towards this goal.
That's what precipitated this meeting. We weren't all sitting around planning, let's do this
Yeah.
until that came up. So we
That's
didn't know
what-
this sooner either.
Yeah, I mean, that would be fantastic. If we could patch up everything and move forward, and we say, yeah, let's go ahead and procure the land. But then what you still got the need of fields. Okay?
The problem is like the facility in 119. You're gonna have to, if you go build another park somewhere else, a bigger one, you're gonna have to do that so we can just get by. I mean,
That was one thing I wondered was, even if we were to do something like that, what does this need no matter what?
It's
How
gonna
much
need
money do we have to
to
spend here no matter what?
yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's gonna need a lot of work just to get it done because it's not what we really need. I agree with you. There's not enough room there. I totally agree with you. But for people to keep playing on those fields and concession stand and the bathroom, they're gonna have to be modernized. They can't stay like they are.
But maybe not to the degree that you would if you knew you were going to stay there. I mean, if it's a 4-year plan to get to this point, instead of spending $1 million, you might be able to spend $200,000 and keep them playable to get to this point. You see what I'm saying?
But when I look in, what you said is 100% true. We have piecemeal for years. We only got Sand Hill because I was allowed to save money enough to do Sand Hill. Now, did we have enough money to do Sand Hill 100% right? No, we probably did it 75% right.
Maybe 50.
Yeah. But back then, it was 75, probably 50 now. Rec department, we didn't know it was an option that we could even branch out somewhere else. When you asked me that night, what is big enough, I said it wasn't big enough 5, 10 years ago, it won't be big enough next 10 or 15 years. But we wouldn't be what we are now if I wasn't allowed to save money once we got Sand Hill to a point. If we had spent all the money every year, we wouldn't have nothing. We wouldn't be talking about 1.7 or 2.2 with the money we got set aside. We wouldn't even be talking about, we wouldn't have nothing. We'd be spending every year on little project, little project, little project, little project.
That's right.
So we have had to save over the years because recreation has always not taken a big chunk of splash at all in 20 years, how many years. When it first started, we got 6%, and then we got the wish of the commission. But we got enough to do some projects. We built Sand Hill, we built Baker. So those two nice projects 8 years ago. Could we spend more money on both places? Oh yeah, we could put million and million and million more. So we'll always need the rec complex, even for practice. Even if we did a 5 to 8 field complex somewhere else in this area, we will still need that for practice, right? Because it'll take twice the field for practice than it does for game, and always have and always will. And I gave Patrick my practice schedule for the last 3 years in my probably 10 of the 12 months, and you look, they're unreal. So to me, yeah, my board didn't like it when this was tabled. I said, but look at the big picture. We might be getting something that we didn't know we could even think about getting if we don't. If we went here and spent the $80,000 and then at rec, we wouldn't be even sitting here now.
And Mike is exactly right, I think, in the fact it's y'all that, as a board, that should be the advisory board to this commission. The commission holds the purse strings. So that's what we're doing. That's the whole reason for this, is to get it out between the, and let's be sure that what y'all advising us we can afford, and what we're spending our money on is the best money, the best dollar spent. So that's where I say we are today.
Yeah. If you put
And
all,
I would love to have Mill Creek sitting
okay,
there.
if you put all our complexes together and all our areas, we got 0 adequate parking. Every one of them.
No.
Well, the only one we got adequate parking is the Buckland and Tuscany. And it's not big enough down on the bottom. You gotta go up top where it's not great parking. So we have spent 0 money on parking since '75 when the rec department start.
I agree.
Well, one thing that I think is crucial is, out of everything that I saw here, was the timing is right for us to plan smartly and properly about the upcoming SPLOST. Now's the time for us to be talking about if we do want to do something big for recreation, then we need to get that thing proposed and help sell that in the SPLOST. I feel like the citizens of Effingham County, some of their top concerns are where they want to put their concerns of where they want to put their money, what they're willing to put money in, is public safety, roads, and recreation.
And I tell you before that recreation, I think has helped pass SPLOST every time it came up.
Even though it hasn't been a big a factor
That's
as
right.
people want to see, because in all of our comprehensive planning, if you study it, they all say every time we want better, more improved recreation. You know, they moved here with their kids for a certain lifestyle that is a big part of recreation. They want that. So, you know, even if you could say like we're maybe starting later than what we should have, could have, would have, this is a good time to start now so that we can plan it properly. So I don't need any of you guys to feel like this is against the rec department anyway. I think it's actually a positive that maybe we could look at doing some really good things. And
That's why I came out in the meeting that night when they got tabled. I came out positive. I told Mr. Linda next morning, I saw positive out of it. Will I be here on 10 years, 20 years? I don't know. But I'm going to see it started anyway.
I have a heart towards recreation in Effingham.
And you have always been, you've always been a supporter of recreation since you been in Effingham County.
My only concern about the future plan is that we need to make sure that, you know, what the location it is centrally located and operating costs, because you're not gonna be able to operate it at the level that you're doing our current recreation. So whenever we do these things, in the planning, it's gotta be an operating cost that's considered.
Yeah, I mean, there's no need to build it if you don't have enough to maintain it.
That's
I mean,
right.
that's the big thing, maintenance.
I think Mr. Linda made a comment that night. We got to think about what it's going to cost us, but we also got to think about what it's going to cost us to operate.
One of the, if I may, one of the things that's been the 10 years down the road with SPLOST, the thing that struck everybody in the face was the O&M piece. It was great to build a new courthouse, but then they realized they had to hire 22 new deputies to run the courthouse, which obviously we know where that money comes from. It doesn't come from SPLOST. And I think y'all are having a great conversation because in your timing, to me, is perfect, because I think you're at, I won't say a crossroads, but I think you're at a decision point here in the next few months. You're either going to put your money into your current facilities, realizing you cannot build the dream of the Central Park, and I'm just going to use these numbers. Let's say you got 1.7 for this. Let's say you decide the Central Park is your dream together, and you spend $700,000 and agree that $1 million goes towards the Central Park, and it can't be used for anything else. Then what you begin to do, and this is our job to help y'all, we have to cosmetically do such a good job with that $700,000 that people can come to that park and say, there's no way I'm not voting for this again, because look at what they're going to do 2 years from now.
You're the PR guy.
We're the PR guy to help y'all say.
Well, what you're saying is, and this is what I feel that where we've fallen short on roads, is like, you know, we want the next SPLOST to pass, but we have to show people that what we say we'll do, and we'll do it well, so that they believe in us and they will vote for it the next time. And so we want to show them, yes, our recreation is improving so much that look what they just did, and they'll follow through with this.
Absolutely.
You said that well.
We took, in Heard County, they were 2 years out from a vote, and they only had 4 Clover Leaf ball fields, and the commission's #1 goal was to build a sports complex. And I agree with you. I think Park and Rec, those people will get out and work harder to pass the SPLOST than any other group in every county that I work in. So what we did was we spent minimum dollars, unfortunately, for a 2-year period of time. But we had one of those beautiful boards right there that says, if you pass that SPLOST, that's what you're going to get phased in over. And this is, so everybody knows, this is a 10-year plan we're working on. We're not going to spend $20 million in the next 3 years on Park and Rec. But we can spend it. Unless things really get good.
But if you take those numbers of how many kids is playing on those fields and all those different activities, and we show that we've got a plan to get them You put those numbers to voting, and we pass the law. I mean,
Well, people are at the point now, show me.
They are.
that's right.
They are.
And, you know,
Because we've got money sitting in the bank to spend.
Right.
And
I'm getting a better feel than I had before because I'm gonna be honest with you. I was ticked.
well, you'll get over it.
What I mean by that is we wait, we get right here to the doorstep thinking we're gonna get something and then, back up.
I totally understand.
And that put the board, I'm not the only one, but I run my mouth more than the rest of them. Where we are now, the property we talked about, the property we talked about buying beside us is not enough for what I think we all want.
I don't think it is either. And I think the price tag.
Even if it's 20, and the price tag is outrageous for what it is. And I'm on board with this 100%, but I'm one of them shogies now. If we can get something started, like you said, get something going now and have a nice picture of a master plan that says, this is what we're doing now. This is what the future SPLOST money is going to do for recreation. To be honest with you, this is the only entertainment Effingham County has. Now, it might be minimal, and somebody could run the numbers, but people that, grandparents, parents, kids that go out to a ball game every night, they're gonna stop at a convenience store. We don't have the big chain restaurants. They're gonna spend $10, where if they weren't going to the game, they would be at home not spending anything. So over time, those pennies do add up a lot.
And that's why I say I believe recreation is an economic engine.
Oh, it is.
Absolutely. But I think and this is my job to throw out ideas and y'all say, won't you shut up or not? If indeed you ultimately come to the agreement that there is a central site that you're willing to give up a little bit temporarily for something down the road, what we need from the Park and Rec Board is, what's the minimum your people are willing to live with?
How many acres do you need?
No, I mean, I'm talking about
What our dream is right now?
No, I'm talking about what will it take to dress up what you have to where people, I mean, there's a dollar number there. Let's say it's $700,000 of the 1.7. If we spend $700,000, the SPLOST people will go crazy. We need to know from y'all what needs to be done. We'll worry about the dollar. We'll come back to the commissioners and yourselves and say, okay, here's what they said the minimum. It's going to cost X. So can we do X? And if the answer is yes, great. But we need to know from y'all, since you talk to the everyday users every day, that what we can't have the Wizard of Oz right now, but we can get halfway there.
Well, let me ask you this. You've done an analysis. We've paid y'all to do an analysis if you just want to look at this, right? Can you not sit with them and have discussion about, in your analysis, you must also have some kind of thinking process of, you see where we're weak. And if we want to do a good presentation, but yet you understand, you also are aware now of what our monetary situation is. So you could say to them, and they might be like, no, that's not going to do it. But y'all could have some back and forth that could help them say, here's how you can get the best bang for your buck out of your weakness, and have a back and forth until you come to what is.
But I think it starts with y'all all agreeing what the ultimate vision is. And the ultimate vision may be from y'all, that'll never happen, so let's go ahead and do all this right now. But I'm not hearing that as this meeting goes on. I'm hearing that we need to do enough to prove our word is good when we say we're going to improve our facilities. But the next step is we need, and we can sit down with y'all and you can go through each of these facilities and you say, look, we have got to cover that sewer hole. We have got to line off our parking lots. These are minimum things we have to do for people to drive into our facility and say,
we're fixing the sewer, right?
I can see things happen.
I thought we just appropriated money to fix that blind side of it.
The reason we have, putting shingles on a roof or redoing a dugout or replacing some toilets, people aren't going to notice that. That's why there hasn't been a lot of money spent out of the SPLOST for recreation, because we want the wow factor.
Right.
And I think what he's trying to tell us is if we spent $200,000 at rec department to get it in good shape, another $100,000, $150,000 Sand Hill to get in 70% shape now instead of the 75 it was. Then we'll have that 1.3, 1.5, camp 1.7 with the land to put on a new complex. I foresee, honestly, when we talk about, I foresee 2 5-field complexes, a couple football field, a couple soccer field at a central location, but we'll always will need the rec complex for practice.
What would be the
All right,
wow
yeah,
factor?
that-
What would be the wow factor though right now? What would that be?
The 2 5-field complex.
One 5-field complex.
No, it
One
wouldn't-
5-field complex to start with, and a football and soccer field with
That's the future.
with room to spin. Oh, you talking about,
Current location.
I'm talking
what
about,
with current
if
location?
we were gonna spend 200, 500, 700,
Yeah,
whatever.
what would you spend it on?
What would you do right now to your things that would be a wow factor? Not fixing a dugout, not fixing a toilet,
I don't
but
think you can do anything right now that for $200,000 is gonna be a wow factor.
about 700. That's what I'm saying. What,
Can I back up just a minute,
yeah.
please? Because you just said where I wanted to get to. What would this board, if you had your ideal new facility, what would it have? How many ball diamonds would it have?
Start right now, be 5, 1 and 1, with potential to build another 5, 1 and 1 in it. That's 5 athletic, baseball, softball field, 1 soccer, 1 football.
Okay,
And then
and then facility to
to
double.
build at least that many more with adequate restroom, parking,
All right,
amenities,
organized.
and maintenance.
All right. You didn't mention tennis courts, or tennis courts?
Yeah, Baker, we got 6 of the nicest tennis court Baker that we could have.
Okay.
So tennis court wouldn't even be to me.
All right.
Now, I will say now, and Ms. Dash is sitting in the room, I got to tell y'all 6 months ago, we in need of a first class handicap, complete handicap accessible playground.
We agree with that.
Which we've kind of.
I'm talking about
that.
including another one at this locale, wherever it is. So,
But I'm assuming your plan, when you say 50 acres in the district, 50 acres would encompass, that would be enough acres to cover that type of thing, is that right?
No,
50 acres is
no, what all
like a
they're talking about.
minimum,
yeah.
really, and it can go up from there. I think right now, we've got like 70,
We got 72 at Sand Hill
72 at Sand Hill,
and 20 at Rec.
yep.
And
High
20
Mora
at,
is
20, at
16.
30 at Baker with 20-acre lake.
So you need as much, what you talking about, you need as much land as you have at Sand Hill now.
Would be ideal.
Yeah.
Would be ideal.
Oh, you said it's.
That way you got growth for 10, 50, you got growth for 20, 25 years.
Well, I'll make
Land
mention of
next
this,
to Baker.
and
Did we
it
ever
may
find
be
it?
nothing that can never be worked out, or it
Never.
may be something that can
Next
be
to
worked out
Baker.
very easily, depending on
Next to,
if all the people involved thought it was a good central location and so forth. But you recognize that our IDA owns like 1,500 acres that they are not receiving tax income on at this point in time. And I know that we've had conversation with them in the past about jogging trails and facilities in which they could have field events and things like that. You know, we may be able to have some discussion with them about them, I don't know if donating, but maybe.
Where is it?
Where is it located?
Here's,
Well,
that's gonna get to be the next issue, I
Where is
think,
the central?
is where is everybody gonna be able to agree to build something?
Right now.
that's what this chart right here is,
Place
that's where the
out
population.
between here and Drinking for
The
sale.
9
That's
acre
our
property.
recommendation.
1.7.
So you look, if you keep us in Springfield, in the center of the county, which is the hospital, I think, is the identical. So you still serving Clio, Shawnee, Egypt, Guyton, and the Springfield area.
Because different pieces of property has been, the 9 acre property between Rankin and Springfield, which Bank of Newington controls.
Which is ideal.
You
How
got,
much acreage is there?
70,
it's a 8,
70, I think.
I think there's 2 pieces, I think altogether 76 acres,
Right.
78, something like that.
Well, that would be ideal.
And then you got the property that adjoins the Baker.
That's right. It's 2, 3 different tracks there.
that
Effingham.
supposedly.
30, I think 30 acres, 40 acres, 30 acres in one, and maybe 10, 15 in another.
I think that's a low, one.
I think it is too, but I haven't, just somebody mentioned it.
I mean, that, to tie Baker Pond into a facility like this would be.
Would be good.
What's for sale right now is the non-limited. We know that's for sale.
Yeah.
The other we talk about some by Central.
And-
Okay, what is old Starkyard used to be.
And just to bring it up, I got a phone call from the parties that own the property there by the overpass that's across from Baker Pond. But there's a road that goes through the middle of that.
That's the Heinleys, I think.
Palmer.
Okay.
And Shirley and Francis.
Okay.
But part of that's on one side of 21, part of it's on the other side.
But what we as a rec board was trying to look at parcels of land so that we didn't do what we call duplicating of services. And the closer you get to Lincoln, the more you're getting into the duplicating of services at Lincoln, because they've got their fields down there, and there's really nothing up there. I mean, I drove from my house to Sand Hill to my kids to play soccer for years. That's kind of aggravating.
But most of the property, I think, that,
A lot of county people are playing in the city of Lincoln.
What they want for the non-legal property there on
I think
20?
it's on the market for 1.7 million.
Should be passing hand around for that.
You told me 1.2 one time. It's 1.2, 1.7.
That would be ideal because that would be.
That'd be an idea.
It might be, let me just look it up and then I won't have to guess. I mean, it's on the market.
The IDA track there is, you're talking about Call Road.
That would be off of Hodge Hill Road.
So what you're doing in that situation is we're singling out the Kildare, Egypt, Clio, Shawnee, Guyton area. And like Mike said, you kind of do things because Rankin is their own entity, is their own association.
I just threw it out there because it might be something we could obtain at no cost. And it's in the area that they've designated where we have a need.
Yeah, they didn't take into consideration the Lincoln Fields and all when they did that assessment.
I'm not advocating for it.
I know, I know, but I'm just making sure that
Everybody's gonna have to drive.
on his
District
map.
One, the people from Faultville, it's a heck of a ride to go to 119 as well.
And so I agree with that.
And that's why the last 5 years I've offered a Sand Hill chores and a rec chores and probably have cut down people's driving time 70%. In most divisions. Now some divisions,
Right. I'm just.
Yeah,
My kids are grown.
but that's why I did that because Mr. Spirit made a good comment. A lot of people, when the county is playing in Rankin, because they put all the kids in one area.
And that's one reason I don't have a
And-
problem with service delivery where we have to give them money.
Right.
Because they're servicing our people.
And that's why 5 years ago I went to, you could choose between Sand Hill and Rec for probably 70% of our age group and probably 70% of our sport to try to cut down, especially, remember 4 or 5 years ago, gas was sky high and the economy was bad. And that had been a positive because I got some people now, that they 8, 9 years old playing ball since 4 or 5, and they hadn't even played, they played 95% of the game at Sand Hill and practiced 95%.
See,
at Sand Hill.
if there's enough,
It may have changed since.
well, if there's enough.
It has
in one
been
age
changed
group-
to the forest.
If there's enough in one age group that you have, say, 10 teams that are signed up for Sand Hill and 10 teams that signed up for the rec end, they're not gonna play each other. The rec and Sand Hill, all their games would be at Sand Hill,
Okay.
all their games would be at the rec. Because you're only gonna get 10 games in a season anyway, with the amount of teams we have. Now, my daughter, when she plays, there's probably half and half. So yeah, we're crossing lines, but it's equal. You know what I'm saying? So that would be the thing, if there's enough teams for that end or enough teams for this end, and you don't have to play each other, then you can stay at your home fields.
Mr. Beard, answer your question a while ago. I think we all avoided it. What it would take at rec to survive 2, 3, 4 years, I think it'd be a minimal dollar. I think we need to spend more to finish Sand Hill the way it should be. So I would say, off the top of my head, 200,000 or 300,000, 400,000 would be what we need to spend to get
Can I
to
say
survive
something?
the next 5 to 10 years.
Can I say something? Because the county's so spread out, do we really want one big thing or maybe two nice ones that really accommodates the whole county? Do we really want all of our kids in the same place at the same time? Is that safe? And I have one other thought. Well, I lost it, whatever it was.
What we're proposing,
I guess,
on this
is
is,
already.
what we're proposing is a sand hill complex around the Springfield area.
To start with.
If that kind of answers your question.
To keep two separate.
A sand hill complex. Sand hill has 5 ball diamonds. And
Two soccer.
2 soccer and combo football.
We need one of
So
this.
that's kind of what the rec board is wanting to get one more centralized on, I'll say this end, but Springfield's kind of the center anyway.
And if you go back and
That
look,
helps.
you'd be surprised what percentage of ball players are playing at rec compared to Sand Hill. Sand Hill got enough to keep Sand Hill busy, but rec got more than enough to keep what we got going now. So if you build 5 fields and 1-and-1 football and soccer in the next 3 or 4 years, they're gonna be full, and in the next 10, 15 years, if you duplicate that, they're gonna still be full. So you still gonna have 2 complexes, one in the south end, well, you'll have 3. One in the south end, one in the middle, to serve this area in Lincoln. So you always gonna have 3. You're just gonna have a bigger one at rec if we go with the route we talking about now. And I host 3 or 4 fast pitch girl tournament a year. I host some different state tournaments. We always need, and that Mike has been many a time with that, we could use 2, 3, 4, 5 more fields at one location to have more teams in fast pitch softball. And when we have district baseball and state baseball.
Clarence,
I
on,
didn't have my other thought.
Yeah.
But you said that the sports programs are revenue generating engine. So which area of the county do we want to grow? If it's gonna grow,
Well, we have grown Sand Hill. We haven't did nothing rec in 20, 30 years.
Clarence, you mentioned desiring, you threw out a number of 300,000 to 400,000. What do you want to see with that? I think that's the thing that CHA needs to include.
You may not be able to answer that tonight.
They're probably, I'll be guessing right now.
trust me, he knows.
But I can tell you, it shocked everybody when this got tabled. But I see the big picture. I see the good coming out of what we talked
But
about.
the bottom line is, I can answer your question now, 71.87 acres, 1.3 million.
I thought you told me that.
The other 5.02 is the house and everything up there, that's another 400,000.
Can it be bought separate?
So that's the 1,000,007 if you put the two together.
It can't.
Oh, yeah, it's 2 separate pieces.
what would be the 1.3, how many acres?
How many acres do you get without the house?
71.87.
So that's ideal because
Well, I do want to say this,
And
as
it's
far
on the tax rolls for $289,000.
as far as getting something centrally located, I do think that, I don't have a problem with the concept that you don't want to be on top of Rankin, because Rankin has its, but as far as being central, the Nidlinger property, I wouldn't have a problem with that location, but that's about as north as I think we need to go. As far as where population of people are served, I think there's a whole bunch of voters that feel like whether they have to go over to Sand Hill or whether they have to go to Springfield, I think there's many thousands of voters that feel like they have to go too far. I think if you get to the Nidlinger property, that's a good central location that would make the majority of people serve the majority of the.
Living in Rankin, it seems like between there and where 119 is now, that's a big difference.
And then we still would have these other, we still have Sand Hill, and we still have that as secondary. Well,
and eventually we're gonna have to put some money in Pine North, but we won't even put that on the table right now. But eventually, within 5 to 10 years, you're gonna have to put some money in Pine North. But that's off the board right for it, talk about money right now, for I'm concerned.
And that's really, off the top of my head, the only property that has the access You have the highway there.
He's still
The
there.
cut through is already there. What his body shop was, is ideal for a maintenance shed. So you're saving costs there, if that property, is.
That's part of the 5.8.
That's part of the house part.
But you know, I didn't want to go sit down with Harry and them and talk to them unless that's what the wishes of folks were to even start. But that thing's been sitting there for a while. I'm sure that price is negotiable.
I think it's more feasible with 71 acres than it is with 1.3 negotiable is better than 1.7 negotiable.
Well, he may be in a real position to deal.
All right, let me
I
throw
have
this
a
at
relationship
you.
with him, so.
The property on the frontage, and I don't know if counties can do this.
Sure you can. City can do it.
Well, this can be done.
That's what I said. You buy it all, and yes, you surplus the front for commercial.
You know where I'm going.
That's the smart thing to do. That's
The
commercial.
problem, okay, we were talking about hotels and restaurants. Sand Hill hosted a lot of things. You know, the district, state, people use the facilities. All those tax dollars are going to Cooley, Georgia, or hotels, or restaurants, and everything else. And I hope one day they do bust it seams and it, starts to go to a back this way.
We probably had 2,000, 2,500 people this past weekend. Half of them Effingham, the other half was from Richmond Hill, Poole, and Stratton. This weekend we probably have close to 3,000, and they're all going to be Effingham County. Because we got football rumble last weekend for South Georgia, and we got our football and soccer rumble this week. So just those two Saturdays, and the next Saturday, the following Saturday, we got Gulf Stream coming, it'll be another 1,000, 1,500 people. So just in 3 Saturdays, you're gonna bring in and get people out of their home in Effingham County to the tune of 7,500 people. So just those 3 Saturdays, you bring a lot of tax. Yeah. When we have a big tournament at Sand Hill, get all the revenue, hotel-wise, and 90% of the restaurants. Some of them go to Rankin, but most of them want a restaurant sit down and off fast food when they get through playing ball.
Well, when media gets built, and all the hotels and all that, I mean, we'll be in good shape on that. So.
You and I want to see that. You and I want to see hotels.
We don't want to wait on that anyway.
I'll give you a reference on land, just so you'll know. We did, in Heard County, we did 3 cloverleaf ball fields, it's 12 fields. 2 football fields is 14, 1 soccer field is 15, and a gymnasium on 76 acres with plenty of parking. So you're right in the market on size.
Well, this land is ideal. Most of it's our land. It might get low in the very back. And
But
it's clear.
let me.
That's the biggest part. Yeah, that's clear.
You would
Right
not,
on 21.
you would not want to shut any of your fields down. Right. Because you're gonna need them for practice fields.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
All right. So we agree there's got to be some money spent on them just to keep them up to practice field standards.
Right. But not as much, I think, as people would think.
That's right. So I think that's a number that this commission needs to know how to move forward. And if y'all feel like that's a possibility and y'all would entrust me with doing that, I will see just what I can negotiate with the Bank of Newington. And then we can take those numbers and plug it back in. We got $1.7 million we're fixing to spend on 119, is that right?
$1,700,000 and 430 that we have set aside for land.
So let's
So we got
just
2.1,
let's just
2.15.
say we were fortunate that we could negotiate this and get all this property for $1 million, if we could. And if you could spend the other 700 getting off, then we would have addressed your immediate needs, and we would have a place for our goal.
Right.
And then we would wind up with developing a plan for that piece of property to move forward and have a dollar amount for doing that to move towards our squad.
Yeah. Only thing
Is that fair?
The only thing we'd be addressed would be the gym situation, money-wise.
I understand.
But we have survived now for 5 years. We've been talking about gym for 5 years.
I understand.
And I'm gonna pick on some of these people who've been playing ball with me for years. Florida's probably been playing ball with me for 25 years. This Vera probably 20 years. Some of these others been with me 30, 40 years.
Don't have to tell how old you
And
are.
I will tell you now, if you go back and look, Effingham County, back 25 years ago, had one of the largest athletic participation group and team in the state of Georgia. Bigger than Savannah, bigger than Chatham, bigger than many places, and we still at big. We just got some of our baseball, softball team playing in Lincoln, but we still got the same number of people participating. We won the largest athletic department, recreation department in the state of Georgia when it comes to baseball, softball, football, and soccer.
And those numbers that you got doesn't include all the travel softball teams and baseball teams that are located in this county.
Yeah.
Those are not on your list.
Yeah, those are not on there, and because when I gave Patrick, then I include all our adult practices and all our travel ball teams who practice with us twice a week for 52 weeks. And that's another thing Patrick brought out. Our field does not rest. I tried to give them December off, but our field does not rest. They are used 11 months plus out of the year. And when Patrick said something, I need a synthetic turf field, I said, good luck. I would love to have one, but we could have four. But from a usage standpoint, it would be nice because, but our field never rests. Now, if we get what we talk about, would it rest? Probably not, because participation still is going up.
Our, we've got several different turf experts in the company, in our company, and so I asked them one time, I was like, what does a natural turf field need? It needs three things: sunlight, water, rest. That's what a natural turf field needs.
Now, artificial turf comes with a set of rules that you have to enforce. I mean, there's sunflower seeds, and you have to watch those.
Greg couldn't get on, he stood on that.
So then I guess what we owe y'all from the board is projecting what it would take to get Sand Hill at the part where it needs to be at, and looking at going forward, if we can get the deal worked out with the Nottlingers property there. I think that's what we
Well, there's a step in between, I think. What we need is for you guys to either visit with your users. I'll leave that entirely, how do you want to generate the information about what you need to get there. Then we need to sit down with y'all first. We'll do a flip chart, and we'll do a dream page, as I call it, and then a reality page. Then we go away and attach dollars to that. And then we come back and say, we're in good shape, maybe you can add $100,000, and then y'all and us together will present to the board for $600,000. If for $600,000, if you're telling me for $600,000 that we can bring this facility up to snuff and buy the property for that future facility we're talking about, we think the citizens would be thrilled. And nothing sells a SPLOST. Nothing means more to voters than for y'all to put skin in the game before they do.
If Adam can help me, we're addressing some of the needs in the last 3 or 4 months, and y'all saying we're addressing the batting cage need at Sand Hill, we're addressing the maintenance shed at Sand Hill, we're addressing the septic need at Sand Hill, and we got money set aside, and we go ahead and do it now to do a handicap accessible playground at Baker, and also put another one at Sand Hill, which I'd be in favor of pulling that off the board and saving that for a new complex instead of doing a brand new playground at Sand Hill. But we definitely need a handicap accessible playground regardless of where we go, as quick we can get it. We never have one. So we already at some of the point of addressing some of the stuff that we already talking about, that, and we meet in 12 more days. We meet the 25th. I don't know if the 25th would be early enough, but where I'm concerned is we got to push 2 weeks before y'all present it to the board, and the board has no problem and Tom has no problem. I just do everything the way it should be done instead of trying to get y'all to meet your deadline with the board. We'd already moved it back for 2 weeks anyway because of y'all being so busy 2 weeks ago. So if we got to push it back 2 weeks to get what we need it'd be,
Oh, absolutely, yes. It's too valuable not to take the time you need to feel totally comfortable. And then call a special board meeting, and Patrick and we'll probably come, and instead of kicking her down from Richmond, sit down with you guys and put it all up on the board, and then we go away and do our thing, come back to you first, be sure you're happy with your, sometimes when you see something in writing, it looks different than when you say it. And that's why that's a valuable exercise to sit down.
What you guys are needing is what can we do with the facilities we have?
give up, thanks.
And bare minimum is not a good word.
No.
We don't want to spend a lot of money like we're talking about.
That is the right word.
But we want it for years down the road, usage too, because we're planning on using that facility, we're not closing. So that's what you guys need from us, and basically, what do we need right now and to get by, I guess.
How much can we spend and improve it wisely, knowing we're gonna create a state-of-the-art facility?
Yeah, we wouldn't be talking about this if we didn't have splash money. We would just be using it if we didn't have splash money to talk about.
But you make a good point, and let me say why I said wish list. What we'd like to start off with is not 1.7 million, obviously, based on this conversation, but put down all the things you think you need, and then what we do with y'all is we sit down, put them all on the board, prioritize them, because at some point, if you got 1 through 15 items, you probably can afford 1 through 11. So we need to know which of those 11 are the most important to y'all. Then we go out and attach dollars to it, come back and revisit that, then we present to the board.
Well, some of these other projects are coming out of it.
The board will know by that time, hopefully, about what we can get that property.
We'll know what the property can be bought for.
Right.
We will look then at the topography of that land and get with y'all to see if there 10 fields and if everything can fit on there and have adequate parking so that we know that that piece of property will do our wish list.
Absolutely.
And plus, like you said, the frontage might can be used.
That's right. It may be.
Is bonds possible? If we get these facilities we have up to snuff, and we use all this SPLOST money that we have on hand, less these 3 years, I don't think you can go borrow money from a bank, but you can borrow against what you have coming in as far as SPLOST. I'm looking for a little education here.
I am told that there are private investors out there that are looking for projects such as this to finance.
I think Mr. Reggie might be on board when we got the lights at Sand Hill and lights at Baker approved. We went a step up because they had a 5-year lease, and we went a step up from what we would have gotten, a couple steps up with a 25-year maintenance warranty by doing it 5 years instead of having to pay for it immediately. And that's why we got a Cadillac facility for lighting at Baker and Sand Hill, because we did it that way. If we had to pay the money immediately, we probably would have took a step or two down and wouldn't have that 25-year maintenance warranty.
The finance director's not here tonight, Joanna, but I will say, she has gone over some things with us, ways that things can be done smartly.
Creative ways. Basically, if our 1-year payment, if we can structure it to where in our 1-year budget, that's all that we have to pay out.
Yeah.
I mean, there's ways to structure.
And that's what we're done with Baker tennis court lights and Sand Hill lights.
Well, and I'll give you an example. In Union County, we just did a $7 million community center, which is really way more than that, but that's a lot of money. We did a 15-year bond, and oddly enough, and I'm not a finance person, the bonding company would not let us, we've gone over the 5-year threshold, they would not let us pay principal for the first 5 years, and it was interest only for the first 5 years.
And you got a cheaper rate for doing it.
You got a cheaper rate for doing it.
It's the beatinest thing I've ever seen.
It is. I don't know how it works, but I mean, I never heard about somebody saying, don't worry about the principal, just send me the interest and I'll cut your rate. But
I just don't want us to get this, what we have now, up to snuff, buy this property, and then it's sit there for 10 years.
And then another board.
Right, absolutely.
That's right.
Can I say that I'm on the board? I believe I am. That's not gonna happen.
Thank you.
If we do this and get moving, the people support the SPOS.
Yep, absolutely.
And to me, that is a commitment made to the citizens of the county that vote for it, and it would be wrong for a commission not to follow through with the plans that they
And I'll tell them you did.
That's fine.
And it is totally okay, and it is totally okay and legal, because we've done it in every county that does park and rec facilities. We can put those rendered, I call them renders, I hate that word, but that master plan, we can spread them all around the county at different parks, in the courthouse, wherever people go by their tag, they walk by that board and look at it and say,
My board can call Ms. Vera and say, please vote for it.
yep,
Me as a county employee cannot call Ms. Vera and say, please vote
that's
for it.
exactly
I
right.
can't even sit on the phone or get her information.
I'm not trying to get into y'all stuff, but I just say, I have a lot of meetings that we use at Gregory Park in Richmond Hill.
Right.
They have a very nice building and facility there that this county needs.
Super.
Okay? And if I can incorporate something like that into this project, I would just
That is a
think,
great suggestion.
I would think that would be a very big plus for this county to have a
That'd be a
facility such as that.
Hey,
Talk about
I read what's going on, so I had
That's right.
That's a wonderful facility.
I had not even thought
We have
about
no
that,
plan.
but that'd be a great.
So if we're gonna have that,
Doing
with
that
parking, and we could just simply build this building, and it be the focal point of a rec facility, it may be money better spent than surplusing the property up front. I would need to see what we can buy the land for, see the topography on it, see how we can work it, and go forward. And it sounds to me like I have a rec board that is amicable to that.
No, they serve them in there.
All right.
So everybody's charged, you got the property charged, y'all got, and you'll just get back to back at whatever time y'all want to sit down.
Just one, I have one question.
But we gotta do our part on getting the land and the numbers and to sell them on being able to go forward on their side.
If we had to move this back 2 weeks, will y'all have any problem with my board to meet with Patrick on the 25th, on the 22nd?
Not a problem. This won't go on the 16th agenda, will it, Toss?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that'd be a few, probably gonna be 2 weeks later than what Patrick and.
We wouldn't get it on a commission meeting by the 16th, so you're going to be into, October.
We could meet next Monday, but our regular meeting is the following Monday.
22nd.
So the earliest this commission would be first meeting in
October.
And he can't make that.
It'd be the second meeting.
It'd be the second meeting.
You full up?
No, but it's by our rules, it has to be on the agenda.
Oh, yeah. That's what I said, 2 weeks, I first postpone it for 2 weeks and do it right, then hurry, and not get what we want. And I'm glad you brought that up, because I've talked about it to people before, and I forgot about it.
Phil put the bug in my ear, it's not on me.
I forgot about that facility. I forgot about it, but that's a good facility we need.
No, I'm glad you did. I mean, it's something I've had on my mind, but whenever I sit there for $1.7 million to spend on what I think is an inadequate facility, still not gonna have parking.
What I want one day is to go out of town with my boy with his ball team, made up of other people from the county, and then say, why can't we have this?
That's right.
Yeah,
That's right. That's I want Effingham to become what everybody else wants.
And I think Mr. Phil wasn't involved when we built Sand Hill, but people were proud of Sand Hill, because we didn't have nothing. We got Sand Hill.
I know Sand Hill's not what everybody, some of the other places have, but everybody come to said how nice it is.
And we're doing a study
We're playing
on,
it.
we're doing a study, thanks to Forrest, on Atlas Sand Plant. The old Atlas, that's a piece of property that the county owns. I don't agree with the fact that we had to acquire it, but we got it. And it's sitting there, and it's useless sitting there. The citizens need to get something for their investment. So, I mean, it may be that when this study is done, there's another part of the dollars that needs to go into creating that too for recreation. we're working on a lot of angles. Good?
Can I ask, who is our liaison?
We don't have any.
Originally,
Aren't you?
way back when Dusty was.
Yeah, Dusty was for a long time.
It was myself and Dusty, but as the commission has changed over, we have not reappointed, so.
I think you came a couple and Dusty came a couple and I didn't want to know who it was because we would love to have y'all. You can't come all of them, at least get some area of one you can.
Technically, we used to reappoint like every 2 years, but we haven't done.
It don't have to be on the agenda, y'all just draw straws.
Well, like Mike said, that would help our communication instead of having to invite y'all to come to our meeting. At least it'd be a feedback from our board on a regular basis, if not maybe every month, of what y'all heard from the rest of
These folks back here behind Mr. Winfield, are we on the right track as far as from a community standpoint?
Yeah, I really think you're on the right track and having, planning something that's centrally located. Now, I moved here from New Jersey in 2006. I bought a home here in Guyton. And the one thing that I missed the most was I had 2 huge parks within walking distance of my home. Now, I know I can't have that. I live near Panera.
Right.
I wish you spent some money out there, but I hear you. But when you can build something centrally located, it's going to be big and you have all the facilities that you need and all the amenities that you need. I think the community would be very happy to have that. I know that I would, and I'm sure that if I'm going to be happy, there are a lot of people who are like me, love to go to the park and enjoy what's happening in the park. That would be a great facility right off 21 that if we can get it built in the next few years.
Location is something that would help us lots.
Did you ever get that to
21 is a
Baker
great
Plain?
location.
It's more visible.
It's not too high
So you enjoyed that?
and it's available. That's the good part about
Yeah,
it.
for sale.
Yeah.
My only concern moving this fast, which we need to, is I was talking to Adam and talks, I thought we were gonna have more of a public workshop with more public input. Because if I was asked by some and I said, well, this is more the rec board and board of commissioners.
I would add that.
I think it probably will be
I would
later.
add that to our coaches too.
But I think this is getting fact finding meeting.
It's advertised and it'll be advertised on our agenda for that meeting.
This was advertised, wasn't it? Yeah.
But it was not open, I was told it was not open for generally
Anybody
for
can come to a
public.
meeting. It is a public workshop. I do think that we need to make a larger presentation and offer bigger invitations when they come up with the preliminary plan based on after the meeting with the rec board, that first or second meeting. in October. Preliminary.
I would add our coaches about input.
Yeah.
When can we get some input in what you get out there? After this meeting, I think we're gonna get some support.
I think we will if we do. I think we will.
They want to be heard. I think you guys have done a great job. Guys,
Anybody else got any? Yes, sir.
If you don't have an objection, I know I'm not officially on the board of commission yet,
He had to pay the first $5.
but I'll be happy to be the liaison with the board, with the rec board. I mean, I know I'm not officially on the board of commissioners yet,
Jump in.
and I'll be happy to.
We'll be after the November election.
It'll be in, we know it.
Well, you could be in January and you can certainly attend those meetings even prior and just,
Well, all our meetings are like y'all.
right, they're open. Yeah.
They open it.
I went to the recreation board meeting for years before I ever got on the board. They used to, Charles and I was going.
You got drafted?
When you used to have the predator up there?
No, we
Well, you
can't.
remember that or not? We started going to the meeting when had the trailer up there, that's where we started going to the meeting. I've been involved in recreation in this county
We're in painting a pretty picture.
for 33 years now.
All right.
Thank
We got
y'all
y'all
very
faces covered.
Everybody's got a task.
Has anybody else got something they want to say that hadn't said it?
I want to thank everybody for their positive comment. Because I think they're great.
Absolutely. Thank y'all for your
Well,
time.
I know that a lot of times people that serve on boards have thankless jobs, but I mean, this is a very, very important thing for the county. And I appreciate y'all taking the time to do it. even sometimes if we might not agree on something, I still appreciate you taking your time to do it. So I hope, I know there were some that said, Craig said he was kind of taken back by this, but I think in the end, we're all going to have a better project.
I think every time we've gotten together and talked, it's been a positive, very positive
Yeah.
thing.
And it's been super positive.
It's when this one has this feeling and this one,
And I promise you now, tonight I told my board what y'all done. They wasn't very happy. I said, look at the big picture. Look at the big picture. Just
Let's get them gold shells ready.
there you go.
Yeah, you got it.
Let's get us a rock and a coconut.
I mean, my.
We don't use that. We didn't know what they had in mind.
Anybody
And I'll
else?
be honest with you, I didn't know what I had in mind.
I just want
ready
to
to
give
get in.
Clarence and his board real
Trying to get
quick.
together.
You're done.
So,
All right, we're done.
Thank y'all very much.
thank y'all very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Can your printing press